Welcome to the Rewrite Your Life Story podcast, hosted by your favourite duo, Stephen and Charlene. They're here to help you transform your mindset and create a positive outlook on life. Are you tired of feeling stuck and unfulfilled? Are you ready to take control of your thoughts and emotions and rewrite your story? Well, you're in the right place. They will be sharing inspiring stories, practical tips, and expert advice to help you on your journey to a better you. You'll learn how to let go of negative self-talk, embrace your strengths, and focus on the good things in life. Each episode will be joined by amazing guests who have rewritten their own life stories and are now living their best lives. From successful entrepreneurs to accomplished athletes, we'll bring you stories of resilience, courage, and triumph. So grab a cup of coffee, get cozy, and get ready to be inspired. Tune in every week for a new episode of the Rewrite Your Life Story podcast. Let's rewrite our stories together and make every day count.
In this episode, we interview Austin and Monica, who are experienced digital nomads who have built a successful online business while exploring the world. With a combined 17 plus years of nomading in 10 countries, join us as we delve into their story today.
Before we get started, we want to remind you that the information presented in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts and their guests are their own and do not represent the views of any organisation or entity. Additionally, any information presented should not be taken as legal, medical, or financial advice. Always consult with a licensed professional in the respective field for any advice or guidance. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's dive into today's topic and learn how to transform our lives through positive thinking and taking control of our stories. Thanks for joining us.
Before we begin, we want to give you a heads up. We may be discussing some sensitive and personal topics that might bring up some strong emotions or discomfort. Our goal is to create a safe and supportive space, but we know that everyone's experiences and triggers are different. If you start feeling overwhelmed or triggered during an episode, remember to prioritize your well-being. It's totally okay to hit pause and take a break. Your self-care is important, and looking after your mental and emotional health should always come first. If you ever need extra support, we encourage you to reach out to a mental health professional or someone you trust. You're not alone, and there are resources available to help you on your personal journey. Thank you for joining us on this incredible ride with the Rewrite Your Life Story podcast. Together we'll navigate life's challenges and rewrite our narratives with strength and resilience.
Hey everyone, it's Stephen and Charlene from the Rewrite Your Life Story podcast, and we're really excited today because we've got the first time a couple on our podcast show. And it is Monica and Austin, who call themselves the Digital Nomads, who are actually joining us from Colombia today, but originally from the US. So Monica and Austin, how are you?
Hi, Stephen and Charlene. We are doing super, super good. Thanks so much for inviting us onto your show.
Now, the Digital Nomads, there's so much we can unpack in this. There's so much ways you've rewritten your story to choose this lifestyle. So why don't you take us right from the beginning, how it started for you both?
Yeah, I would say it started back in college. We met in college and we both kind of bonded over this mutual love of travel. So as broke college kids, we traveled as much as we possibly could. I would say we traveled a lot more than the average college kid did. And then we fell in love through that process. So we ended up getting married. And by the time we were graduating college, we were like, you know what? It does not sound fun to go get a master's degree. And it doesn't sound fun to go get an office job. So let's look for something really unique and out of the box that's going to take us on a grand adventure. And we ended up getting hired with the Peace Corps. And we were assigned to go live in Mozambique, Africa for the next 2 years. So we prepped our family for it. We had the big conversations. We sold all of our stuff. We got rid of our housing contract. And then 2 weeks before we were supposed to leave is when COVID-19 hit. So everything came to a screeching halt, and all of a sudden we're like, dude, we have nowhere to go. So we ended up moving in with Austin's parents, and I would say that was the beginning of rewriting our story.
Okay. And you've sold everything to do this. What toll did that play on your emotions and headspace?
We felt like we were scrambling for a long time to figure out what to do next. I mean, everybody knows, like, nobody had any idea how big COVID was going to be, right? So when we first got the news that our trip to Mozambique was canceled, we were told to just wait a couple weeks and they would get back to us. We thought it was going to be like max at my parents' house, and then we'd be back out on to our job in Mozambique. And then a month turned into 2 months, and then 2 months turned into 4 months. It just kept expanding. So there was definitely this element of stagnation. We were just kind of sitting and waiting for a long time. So we didn't make a lot of forward progress that summer because we were just waiting, thinking that thinking that the Peace Corps is going to come back to us and say they're ready to go. Eventually, we got tired of waiting, which was, I think, the biggest thing for us is we didn't want to sit around and just wait for someone else to say, all right, it's time for you to go now. Like, we felt like we had kind of lost some control in our life. And so we wanted to take it back. So we just went ahead and found something else and moved on.
I love that.
For our listeners in Australia and other parts of the world, do you want to explain what the Peace Corps is?
Oh, yeah, of course. The Peace Corps is a government program that the US put together a long time ago. And essentially what they do is they collect volunteers and then they send them to different places in the world, working in several different avenues. So we were in the health sector. So we were going to do malaria and HIV prevention and awareness, mostly working with youth. And then they have some environmental ones. They have
There's
some
agriculture and farming. They have some business.
Yeah. So depending on your expertise, they kind of match you with a trip, they match you with a group, and then you go to that country and you live there for 27 months. So you get your training, you learn language, you learn about the history of the country, you really dive into the people, and then they ship you off to a little town and you don't know where you're going to end up. And then you are there for 2 years and you are there to make a difference. So everything while you're there is paid for. And then when you get back, they give you a good stipend. So it was 20,000 for 2 years, which actually is not that much, but for broke college kids, that seemed like a lot. And we were super excited.
Some of the big values for the Peace Corps is they want you to be an ambassador of sorts of the US for whatever country you're stationed in. But then when you come home, they want you to be an ambassador from that country to the States. It's a big cross-cultural promotion sort of program that they run.
It makes sense, doesn't it?
We don't have anything like that here in Australia. So it sounds like a program of great value as well. So Austin, earlier on, you said that you felt like you lost control during COVID. Tell us how the shift to regain that control and how that occurred for the both of you.
Okay, so whenever I talk about this, my best recommendation is you need to find a Monica in your life because Monica is the only reason I was pulled out of that, basically. I felt like I was stuck in such a big rut, I couldn't pull myself out of it. So I'll let Monica kind of share what happened to her. And it was because of her that I feel like I was able to start moving on.
Yeah. Honestly, I am just a naturally very happy person. But during this time, I was so angry all the time. I was always angry. I remember going on tons of walks. And during one of these walks, I was like, I am so tired of being angry. I'm so tired of waiting for this to end because it's never going to end. It felt like it was never going to end. So that is when I decided to start, I always call it Pinterest shopping for a new life. I was like, I got to find something. And so at the time, Austin and I were able to find jobs in the healthcare space, working with seniors. And so I would go to these old people's houses and I'd be working with them. And I had a lot of downtime. They were napping or things like that. So during my downtime, I literally created a secret Pinterest board where I was going through and I was like, what I want is just to travel. I just feel so stuck. And so I went and started collecting all these different ways that people were making a living traveling. And at the time, I think since COVID, there's a lot more resources. But at the time, the only things I could find were being a virtual assistant or being an influencer. And I was not about to do my makeup every day and try to show up on camera and be an influencer. So I was like, all right, we're going to be virtual assistants and we're going to make this work. But I had to be really respectful of Austin's grieving process. And so it's kind of a tricky balance. Austin is a lot more logical than I am. I'm a lot more big picture thinker, okay, let's just jump in, let's take the risk, where he's a little bit more cautious than I am. And I knew that we were both still grieving the Peace Corps and just all of the crazy things that were happening during COVID. So I ended up doing a bunch of secret research and essentially creating it wasn't quite a PowerPoint presentation, but basically it was a PowerPoint presentation where I could pitch this idea to Austin and help try to get him on board as well.
Awesome.
Such a beautiful idea there. And you can see that
it complements each other. So you talked a little bit about what was probably some of the biggest challenges for you during that time. I know it couldn't have been easy having to move into the parents' place after having all these dreams of going out somewhere. And how did you navigate those challenges?
Oof, not well. So we were quite literally living in the room that Austin lived in when he went to high school, not exactly where we imagined being after graduating college with all these grandiose ideas. And one of the biggest challenges, though, was that we worked opposite shifts. So Austin would wake up at like 6 a.m. and go to his shift. And then he'd come back. And if we were lucky, we might see each other for maybe 20 minutes. And then I'd head off to my shift and I'd be gone till 1 a.m. And so we would never see each other. And we didn't have time. We were so burnt out. Like the healthcare industry was so desperate for workers that we were working crazy long days, easily 15 hours a day sometimes. And we were so tired and we were exhausted. So even when we did see each other, we're like, let's sit on the couch and watch a movie. Like we weren't hanging out. We weren't going out. We loved being outside. We loved camping. We just couldn't do any of those things. We didn't have any energy for it. So I think one of the key things that we did is we both took off Wednesdays and we're like, we will not work Wednesdays. And those are going to be days for us. Those are going to be days we went camping on those days. We went outside on those days. We like actually got to talk to each other on those days. And I think that helped us a lot.
It was hard for us to have lost our plans for the next 2-3 years and then to end up doing things that we didn't really enjoy doing. And I feel like whenever we came home from our shifts, at least for me, I never really felt like I had the mental capacity after coming home from work to like start planning out my life and like, okay, what are we going to do now that we're off track for where we want to be? What are we going to do to get back on track? I would come home and I'd just be dead, I guess. And while I was waiting for Monica to come home from her shift, I would just watch a movie or like I wasn't engaged anymore. Again, Monica, thank you for pulling me out of that. It felt like getting from that point to a point where we're more proactively thinking about what we're wanting to do with our life was a big uphill climb. But once that momentum got started and built, it was a lot easier to maintain that.
Hey, so thank you for being so open and sharing with us. How did you then make the leap? Because obviously what I'm hearing is you were in a rut, like you were in this constant cycle of work and despair and work and everything was just consumed by that. How did you get unstuck and come out of that and actually make the leap to become digital nomads?
Yeah, we quit everything. We quit our jobs. We quit everything. And we're like, okay, we have enough savings to last us 6 months and we are going to figure this out. We're going to figure out how to make money and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I've heard a coach say that the best way to get yourself out of a rut is just to do something big and drastic. And that's essentially what we did is we walked away from our job. I mean, obviously like we gave them a notice and everything, but we said, we're done. This isn't the life we want to be living. And we are going to just quit our jobs cold turkey and just put everything we have into becoming virtual assistants and figuring out how to make that work.
That takes so much courage, right?
It does. It takes courage and resilience. So tell us about
Desperation.
I
love it.
And desperation. So tell us about this journey of, from medical background, because my background is in nursing. So I understand that background. How did you then transition to become VAs? Very different lifestyle, very different fields of practice. Talk into that for us.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing is just online education. There are so many courses and resources online. So we spent the next couple of months like really diving in. We took a course from a lady who teaches people how to become virtual assistants. We spent a lot of hours building our portfolio. We got free clients. And then within 2 months, we started getting clients. And at the time, I think there were so many people who were desperate to make their businesses work that they were desperate to find someone to help them. And so finding VA work was actually very easy for us. And before we knew it, we were making a decent living as virtual assistants, but we still were making the life that we wanted to live. We basically went from one job where they were telling us exactly where to go and exactly what to do to a job that we created for ourselves where people were telling us exactly where to go and exactly what to do. And so it wasn't the ideal situation, but it got us unstuck. And so it was the driving force that started the whole digital nomad journey.
Yeah, huge props to online education. I feel like the self-education industry is super, super big right now. And I feel like to some degree, there's almost no limit what you can't teach yourself through online courses, online videos. That's the route that we took. And it was so incredibly helpful. And that's one thing we always tell people. Anyone who's wanting to start an online business or to start something new, we always point them in that direction or at least offer it as a potential solution because there's so much you can learn online. And sure, you can't learn everything online, but there's a good start to everything. Anything that you're interested in starting up, you can find someone teaching it. And then it's a really good launch pad to go start your own journey from there.
Was this the same time that you took off from your parents' house, or did you transition that as well?
Yeah, it was. So we started that course in the end of 2020. And basically, immediately, we started traveling around. We started visiting family and friends all throughout the US. They're all scattered mostly on the West Coast, though. So we have friends in like Utah, Idaho, Oregon, Washington. So we basically started couch hopping. And because we now were doing all of our work online, we would go spend a couple weeks to a month or two visiting different family members and friends across the country. And we would exchange doing house projects for them. Because basically everybody that we knew at the time had either just bought a house or had already at home and were doing some sort of house renovations. So we would exchange our labor and help them do drywall or redo their flooring or paint murals and things like that in exchange for them letting us stay at their house. And so it was a really sweet gig. And again, we just switch houses every couple of weeks, just went on the West Coast rotation. We're so grateful for our friends and family who let us do that.
That's a brilliant idea. Yeah. And so for someone who's starting out in an online business and wants to scale, what would you recommend them do? Because obviously you're balancing a lot. You're moving from house to house, you're helping them with DIY projects, plus you're being a VA. That's a lot to put on your plate to balance. So how did you scale to the point now that you could afford your lifestyle?
That is an excellent question. So the short answer is that we didn't because being virtual assistants required so much like changing time for money. We ended up pivoting and niching down into web design. And with web design, it was a lot easier to schedule out our time and to balance our life a lot better. So we were working on bigger projects. And I really think the key to that is just scheduling your time, doing it so well. Luckily for me, Austin is a really good planner because I would have been a hot mess through this whole process if it weren't for him. So we looked at our core values. We said, okay, like we're here, we have house projects to do, we have a business to grow, and we also want a healthier lifestyle. We want to be happy in our life. And so those were the three kind of things that we always made sure we scheduled out in our week. We always have time for play, we always have time for business, and we always have time for house projects. At least at the beginning. We don't do house projects anymore.
That's good.
Niching down, why is that important?
Actually, I feel like we have a really unique perspective on this. The first thing is that niching down is important because you can make more money and you could have a lot more fun with it. But I don't actually suggest that it's something that people do right away because you don't know what you don't know. And we as humans are born to experiment and try new things and learn by trial and error. And so I really think that it's important to try a bunch of things before niching down and kind of have like a funnel approach to it, I guess. And as you go, okay, you can learn, okay, I really hate copywriting. All right, like what's next? Okay, I really hate this. What's next? And you can kind of move down until you find something that really lights you up and feels easy to work on. Niching down is super important because it helps you target your message to people. But I don't think that when you're getting started online, messaging should be your first priority. I don't think branding should be your first priority. I don't think building a website should be your first priority. And the reason I think that is because that's what we put as a priority and it didn't help us at all. It wasted so much time because then as we pivoted, we had to change everything. We had to start over. I mean, we got clients without any of that stuff. And it's so easy to start making money online now as more of a freelance role. And then as you go and try different things, you can decide, okay, like I absolutely love, for us, it was web design. We love design. So we're like, okay, like we are all into web design now and we can fully brand ourselves as web designers and bring that messaging out. And it's so much easier when you know who you're talking to.
One thing I would slightly change to what you said is not only did we start getting clients when we without that stuff that she's talking about. But I feel like once we shifted our focus away from having a perfect website and knowing exactly what our niche is, I feel like once that stopped becoming our focus is when our business started growing more. And I feel like I definitely agree. I think there's a lot of advantages to niching down and to figuring out who you're talking to. But a lot of times we've noticed this happened for us and with a lot of the people that we work with, it puts you in a box and you say, I'm only going to work with these people. And if you have someone else who's marginally aligned, but they don't fit neatly in that box, a lot of times you put them to the side and say, I'm not going to work with them. They're not my target market. When they could be a great client and they could be exactly what you need to grow your business. But because you're focusing so much on, I guess a way to say it is you become a little bit too narrow mind or narrow visioned, I guess. So it was really helpful for us to, when we expanded that, our business started growing a lot more.
To sum this up, a lot of the advice we were given was to niche down really, really tight to start and then grow out. And I would flip that on its head. I would say grow out and then niche down.
Yeah, that's great advice.
It's like having a funnel, isn't it? Like you need to have a big funnel in order to find out what you don't want.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
You mentioned before that you have 3 core values as a couple. So I'm going to ask you a bit about that, but I'm going to ask you 2 pronged questions. So first of one is how you discovered your values as a couple. The second one is not many people can work with their partner. Not many people can work with their spouse. Obviously, we work together and we make it work. We know that our different personalities is actually our strengths because my weaknesses are Charlene's strengths, her weaknesses are my strengths. So 1, how did you align your values as a couple? And 2, how do you make it work? Because you're living, breathing 24 hours in the same room together. How do you make it work?
Yeah, those are both really, really good questions. I have an answer for the second one if you want to tackle the first one.
I have always been a very self-aware individual. And so for me, discovering my values was easy. So discovering our values together as a couple, though, was a little bit more challenging than I thought. I think part of it was before we ever became a couple, we had really deep conversations about what our values were. And they were really similar to begin with. When it came to building a life together, though, it just took a lot of journaling. I think we each kind of journaled individually and then we'd always come together. Be like, okay, what did you discover? What is important to you? And for the most part, we're so similar in our values. So I feel like that part was actually fairly easy for us.
There's a lot of communication. Every year we go on what we call a vision retreat. This is an idea that we got from Jimmy Evans, who is, I don't know exactly what he is.
It's a
marriage counselor, I think. But his advice was to go on a vision retreat at least once a year. And this is where you go spend a couple days out, just the 2 of you, and you spend that weekend having conversations about everything. You talk about money, you talk about kids, you talk about your intimacy, you talk about every aspect. If you have a business, you talk about your business, you talk about your future, and you just lay it all out on the table. And you have these couple days where you're separated from kids, you're separated from work, you're separated from other responsibilities. And doing that every single year has really helped us make sure that we are aligned with each other. And if we're not, we can get realigned.
I will say from those vision retreats, we've had some really hard conversations because I've always wanted to be a business owner. And that was something that Austin never considered for his life until we had started a business. And then he's like, oh yeah, I guess I could be a business owner. So we've had really hard conversations where things were working or money was tight that month or something. And it's always been our relationship first. And so I've always said, hey, if this isn't working, I will walk away. And we've always been able to find a way to make it work because we've put our relationship first. And it's always worked out in our business. We've always been able to scrape by somehow, sometimes by the skin of our teeth, but we've always been able to make it work. And it's always, I would say that it's really made us a lot closer together. It's really made us have to work together and to figure out what both of our dreams are in our life, or if we can make that happen together.
To answer your second question about how we get along, I love this question. We get asked this question all the time because, like you said, people will say to us, I don't think I could be in business with my partner because I'd have to kill them if we were together all the time. And I have 2 things that come to mind for how Monica and I make it work. The first is exactly what you said. Instead of focusing on the differences as weaknesses, recognize that your differences can be strengths and learn how to make them strengths. Like in our relationship, I'm definitely more of an integrator. Monica is a visionary. She has a lot of the big ideas and I figure out how to make them happen. And that works really, really well for the two of us. So finding out what works for you and what each partner is good at, what they're both naturally good at, what they're both more interested in doing. So if you're going into business, does one person want to handle the finances more than the other? Does the other person want to handle client relationships? Let them. So that's definitely one big piece of advice. And the other would be to always have the most generous default assumption. I feel like a lot of times when something goes wrong, if your partner does something or doesn't do something that you ask them to, a lot of times we jump to kind of worst case scenario. Oh, they didn't take out the trash even though I asked them to. They must be
They did it on
they did it on
purpose.
purpose. They're out to get me, or oh, they said this, whatever. And I think instead of that being the default, if you make it the most generous thing you can think of, I wonder if they didn't take out the trash because they're having a hard day, or maybe they just forgot. Or if you go into those situations thinking not, oh, they're out to get me, but oh, maybe they need help with this. That's been really helpful for me to just be generous in what we're assuming about the other person.
I love that.
That's very powerful. Thank you. And I guess that's a principle you can take in life, isn't it? Not just in a
That's true.
relationship. Yeah. So that's a very powerful principle. Tell us what your business looks like today in Colombia. And how long have you been in Colombia, by the way?
We've been in Colombia about 2 months. We have about 1 month more until we head out. So today we are doing primarily coaching. It's funny, we have a little bit of like residual projects from every past iteration of our business. So we still have a web design client, we still have VA client, but primarily what we do now is coaching. Mostly it's kind of small business coaching, helping people who were in our shoes where we were a couple of years ago is who we really like to help. People who feel like they're stuck, feel like they want a big change in their life. They want to be able to find work online so that they can travel more. Not just travel, just if you want more freedom in your life, more space in your life to do whatever it is that lights you up, whatever it is that you enjoy doing, whether that's traveling, whether that's more time with family, any hobbies that you have, we want to be able to help people figure out how to make that work. So we coach them on how to start up the business, and it's kind of one part business strategy, one part mindset, and helping them figure out how to fit all the pieces of their life together.
I imagine there would be like a lot of misconceptions about what it means to be a digital nomad and what are they? I mean, like, how do you address those?
Ooh, there are so many. This is one that really gets me fired up. One of the biggest ones I think that you see is that a nomad is somebody who sits on a beach and drinks a coconut all the time. That's what you see on social media. That's kind of what we're sold, but that's actually not true. Digital nomads are some of the hardest working people I know because they're craving this lifestyle so much that they'll do anything to not let it go. And so the biggest way that I feel like we have been trying to address these misconceptions, I guess, is by giving voices to other people through our platforms. So we have a podcast of our own. We have a Facebook community for people who are wanting to be digital nomads. And we do a lot of one-off workshops in our group. We just had a podcast episode.
Events.
Yeah, a lot of community events. We just had a podcast episode come out where we had a ton of people send in little voice clips about what it was like to travel and why they liked to travel. And so we've really worked hard to create a community aspect where you can go and find like-minded people who aren't necessarily just looking to spend more time on the beach.
Love that. Tell us what a typical day looks like for you guys, like from morning till night. What does that look like for someone who thinks that it's on the beach drinking pina coladas?
Yeah, my favorite way to explain being a digital nomad is that we live very boring lives in very exciting places. So mostly we have set up our lives so that Monday through Friday are business days. We work during those days for the most part. So we'll go to the gym in the morning, we'll do some work. The difference is that we can take breaks whenever we want. And so we'll go hike a mountain, we'll go hang out at the pool, we'll go, if there's a local event or anything like that we want to go to, we can make that happen. Sometimes we'll take some half days or maybe a full day to go like explore the city. And then weekends, we are exploring hard on the weekends for sure.
Most digital nomads that I know still work roughly 40 hours a week. It's just you have the flexibility to adjust your schedule as you need. So like Monica said, if there's things you want to go to, if you need a break during the day, you have that chance to shift and mold it to fit your life and to fit your day-to-day best. So that's basically what our day-to-day looks like, is working during the week and then exploring hard. weekends and afternoons.
And how many cities and countries so far?
Yeah, I think Colombia is our 11th country. For the most part, we stay in one city when we go to a country and then kind of travel from that city. I know a lot of digital nomads tend to do is like if they spend 3 months in a country, they'll spend each like 1 month in a city. So they'll end up staying in 3 different cities. We tend to stay that whole time in one city because we like getting to know it a little bit more. But I think we're on country 11.
We might be a little bit different than the stereotypical digital nomad or like the average digital nomad because we really like to stay in a place for a long time. So our sweet spot is about 1 to 3 months in a specific city that we're just really getting to know and integrating in.
So that's a long time for digital nomads.
I can imagine you would pick up a lot of different cultures or different languages. Have you managed to learn any different languages during that time?
We learn phrases mostly, phrases and words. We do our best to learn really polite greetings. Typically don't stay anywhere long enough to like really learn the language super well. Luckily, we both speak Spanish fluently, so that's helped with a lot of the countries that we've gone to. For example, when we were in Southeast Asia, we were in Thailand and Cambodia, and we just learned a couple phrases to say hello, how are you, things like that.
What does living arrangements look like? Are we hostels, Airbnbs? Like, what does that look like? Or are you got an RV and
Yeah.
just round sleeping in the back?
One day Monica wants to do that, I think.
I haven't convinced him yet. I'm still working on it.
I don't know about living in an RV, but maybe we'll see. But right now it's Airbnbs. The easiest for us, surprisingly, it's a little bit controversial staying in Airbnbs, but that's been the easiest for us. It's reliable. We know there's some good security measures there because there's a third party involved. Then something happens, we can get our money back and things like that. And it's just convenient. So we've always used Airbnb when we book housing.
We are traveling, so sometimes we'll take like day trips out or like like weekend trips or something like that. Then we're more likely to stay in hostels. So as a couple, I feel like hostels are a little bit hard. So when we're looking for our long-term living arrangement, Airbnb has been our best bet.
Awesome. What has been the standout country? And you probably don't have the same, so I'm open to you speaking, but what's been the best experience out of all of this? I've got a bit of
Oh my gosh.
I have two that stand out, and it's hard for me to choose between the two of these. I have absolutely loved Thailand. We stayed in Chiang Mai, and Thailand was so great for so many reasons. It was cheap, so we saved a lot of money living in Thailand. Culturally, it was different than any place we'd ever been. So it was such a different experience to be able to be. I mean, all the other places we've traveled to have either been Latin American countries or like mainly Christian countries. So to be somewhere where it's 95% Buddhist and their belief systems are quite different than ours in Western cultures was a lot of fun to be able to see that. The food scene was amazing. We met a lot of other travelers and made some good friends while we were living there. So that one stands out in my mind. And the other one for me is Guatemala. We've gone on several humanitarian trips to Guatemala. And so we have a lot of really good friends there and families that we've formed really tight bonds with. And we were in close to Lake Atitlan, so up in the highlands. And the scenery there is absolutely stunning. So for the people and the beauty there, Guatemala is really high on my list.
Monica?
It's so hard to choose. To choose something a little bit different, I would say actually it's a place that I went by myself. Austin, I hadn't met Austin yet. And it was my first out of the country experience. And that was in Peru. And I really found myself in Peru. I met so many wonderful people. I'm actually taking Austin back to Peru in January. And we're going, one of the girls that I lived with down there in Peru, she's from Peru and she's taking up a bunch of time. She's been saving for over a year so that we can travel together and spend some time together. I could just go on all day about the magnificence of Peru. I love Peru.
Beautiful.
Austin, you skimmed past this, but it piques my interest. So I'm going to dive deeper. And I think that's okay. You're giving back because you said you're doing humanitarian. So not only are you experiencing the country, you're also giving back. And I think that's really commendable and honorable. So tell us a bit more about some of the humanitarian projects you've been involved in and How does that fulfill you as a couple?
Thank you for that. We have been involved in this organization called Humanitized Expeditions since actually that was the first international trip we went on together. In 2018, when we were engaged, we left on this trip. We were interpreters for a medical team who went down to Guatemala for about 10 days. We thought it was going to be a once in a lifetime trip. And then we ended up going back every year for 5 or 6 years. So we were medical interpreters for the first trip, but then every trip we went on was a little bit different. We went on some education teams, we went on some physical therapy teams, and then kind of a sister organization to Humanitized Expeditions is this other group called Becca. And their primary focus is to provide education scholarships to students. And that's been something that's really been important to us. And we've seen how different people's lives are when they have an education. So it's been really important for us to be a part of something that can provide education opportunities to people who otherwise wouldn't have it. We've been a part of those organizations for a few years now, and it's been life-changing. I don't know, what do you want to add to that?
Oh, geez. I don't know. I was not expecting to go in this direction. And it's a very emotional subject for me. I love providing educational opportunities for kids. That is such a powerful thing. And it is such a good way to make every place we're in a better place. And I know there's a lot of controversy about whether or not you should help people on the streets or give to the kids who are selling in the streets and things like that. And I am just such a big believer that the one place you can always, always, always make a difference, and it's a difference that's going to keep on giving for generations, is education.
Thank you for opening your heart and being so vulnerable in that. Looking in about 5 to 10 years when you have a family and little kids of your own, if you choose to do that, and feel free not to answer the question if it's too personal. Is this a lifestyle you'll continue?
We are open books. There is no such thing as a question that's too personal. We are very much into oversharing. So we do want to have a family someday, and we will create that family through adoption. And I think through that process, we will have to have a home base for the adoption process to kind of go through. And we kind of just agree on this a little bit, but we're coming around to it. I would love to travel the way we do for the rest of my life. I absolutely love it. Where Austin craves a little bit more stability than I. So I think when it comes down to having kids, we'll probably have a home base where we're at for 6 months of the year, 9 months of the year, and then we're traveling the rest of the time. One of the fun things about this lifestyle is that we don't know. After going through, we don't know what's going to happen. It could be anything.
We definitely want to make sure that our kids have an experience to travel a lot, whether it's as much as we do now or not. We always want to maintain travel and cultural experiences a valuable, a foundational part of our family. We want to make sure that our kids have the experience to travel the world, to meet other people from different cultures, to see people who are different from them because of how much it's changed us and how much it means to us. We want to instill that same thing in them.
Yeah, I love that.
Austin, I want to ask you a question, and it's because I'm very, I can identify more with what you're saying and things like that, whereas it comes to the control, right? And when it comes to the structure, your lifestyle is something that a lot of people would love. But I'm the type of person that loves to be in control, knows to know what's happening, when it's happening, everything. And it seems to me a little bit like that for you as well. How does spontaneity play into that? Because I'm not a spontaneous person. I need to be very in control and I need everything planned. But the lifestyle, Monica, you seem very spontaneous and I love that. So Austin, how have you worked around that for you with that element of control?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think for me, I definitely identify with those aspects of wanting to have things figured out and kind of know what's coming down the road, being prepared for those things. I've always thought of myself as spontaneous, but I think I'm starting to wonder if that spontaneity is with small things, like taking a weekend trip or heading to the beach when you weren't planning on it. The big life things for me, I think I've identified recently that one of my biggest values is helping Monica live her dreams. And I know that Monica is an incredibly spontaneous, free-spirited person. Like we brought up before in this podcast, if it weren't for Monica, honestly, I don't think I would have started a business. And I think I can honestly say I wouldn't be living the lifestyle I am now. And I've grown to love it. And I love the way that we're living, but it's because of Monica. And it's because of my value in her being able to live her dreams and express that free spirit and be able to travel across the world. I think that's changed me and made me a more spontaneous person because the more you live with someone else, the more you take on qualities of that person. So I've definitely taken on a lot of that from Monica. So I think that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Determined to make me cry. That's what it feels like. I feel like I'm being ganged up on here.
Sorry, Monica. You guys are just beautiful. And that heart space is just so beautiful. Well, Monica, we'll try not to make you cry. So we'll ask you the final two questions.
And the first one is, what advice would you both give to someone who wanted to start to rewrite their life story?
So I had a hard time choosing between two. So I might give two pieces of advice here. My first one that's been really helpful for me is just realizing that it's okay to change your mind. And I see this playing out in two different ways. The first way is if you've been living one way your whole life and now you want to make a change, I feel like a lot of times there's big resistance to that change, whether you've been in one industry for 10 years or maybe you just graduated college with a degree that you no longer want to use. We've seen both of those scenarios in lots of different ways. And people feel like they've been on one track their whole life and so they can't make a pivot. But that's okay. Like, honestly, it's okay to change your mind. If you wanted to become a nurse and you went to nursing school and you've been a nurse for 5 years and now you don't want to do that anymore, that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with changing your life direction at that point. The other way I see that playing out is I see this a lot more in online business. You start doing one thing, you start providing one service, and you realize that that's not what you want to do. Maybe you've been a web designer for a year, maybe you've been a VA for a year, and now you want to do something else. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay to have gone down one path, to realize that's not actually the path you wanted, even though you thought it was, and to make a pivot. So just allowing yourself to change your mind and realizing how okay that is has been an incredibly helpful thing for me.
Yeah, that's really powerful. Looks like you're wanting to say something to add to that, Monica.
Yeah, well, actually, mine just played really well into that. And I think my biggest advice would be to spend some time to get to know where you want to go. What are your values? I think so often we're kind of put on this fast track to success. We're like kind of sold, okay, like go to school and then you go to college and then you get a master's degree or whatever. Then you get a job, then you have a family and then you buy a house. And then all of a sudden you're 30s or 40s and you've never stopped to ask, what even are my values and where do I want to go with my life? And so if you take the time to know who you want to become, what kind of life you want to be living, what the destination is, then you can always be asking yourself along the way, is this taking me there? If not, how can I pivot? How can I adjust? How can I get back on the right path to get there?
I love that. And I know with like some of those kind of changes, there would be a lot of naysayers, people that don't quite understand the change or the shift from one place to another. How do you get around that?
Yeah, I love this question because most of the time, the negative comments that you get come from a place of love. Like they just genuinely want what's best for you and they've never seen anybody do anything like what you're doing. Or they themselves feel they're not living to their best life or their best degree and that it's painful for them because they're watching you do it. And so I think if we always kind of have that in mind, like either they're hurting or they're scared for us, and then you can approach it in such a different way with such a different loving attitude towards them. For the most part, people have been really, really supportive in our lives. I do think it helps that we went from being gone for 2 years in the Peace Corps to, oh, we're only going to like just be traveling and we'll have better communication and things. I do think that it was kind of like the door in the face approach for a lot of our family members. But those who have been really nervous about us, like just genuinely coming to them and be like, hey, like I love and respect you. That we have a plan. We're okay. It's going to be okay. And then just going and living our lives. And the coolest thing happens when you do that. And it's that you give permission for everyone around you to start evaluating what their hopes and dreams are and start making changes in their lives and start striving to live their best version of themselves as well, to change their life. Not a lot of our friends and family have become digital nomads, but because we took such a drastic step in our lives, a lot of them have told us like, hey, because you're doing this and you love it and you look so happy, it made me realize that I'm not happy in my life and I'm making changes now.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's
There's so much to share in that, and it's really powerful. So now, our final question for this evening is if you could go back and rewrite your own life stories now, what would that look like?
This is a hard question to answer because I feel like we are constantly rewriting our story. Every time we move to a new place, I feel like we have a fresh slate to start over. If we could rewrite it now, the one thing that I work towards that I would love to incorporate more into our business is just more of that community aspect when it comes to travel. I would love to bring people with me on our travels. I love introducing people to new places. Austin's mom is a little bit of a homebody, a lot of a homebody. And so we convinced her to come visit us when we were living in Guatemala, and it was a big deal. She was really nervous, but it was so fun to cater the trip to her and just watch her start to fall in love with the people and the place that we already loved so much. And so I would love to rewrite my life, I guess, a little bit in that direction. That's something I'm actively working towards, to create more of that community feel and to provide more of those group travel type opportunities.
When we started our business journey, we kind of felt like doing it all on our own. To some degree, we were very disconnected. Actually, to a big degree, we were very disconnected from our clients. We're actually kind of taught that if your clients could wave a magic wand and get the service without you involved, they would, is what we were told. And so we tried to stay disconnected from people. And we've been really, really intentional about making that shift in the past couple months towards more of a community focus, being a lot more involved with people in our audience, whether they're clients or not, whether they are going to become clients or not, just people who are interested in being in our world and engaging in conversation with us. And that's made a huge difference, both in how happy we are and how much our business has grown. And so I agree. I think that would be a big part of what we would change from the get-go if we were to go back and rewrite our story now.
Wow, that's so beautiful. We really love what you guys bring to the table. And the last, I guess for me, one last question is, any plans to come to Australia?
Yes, I'm a little bit scared about all the animals that want to kill me there, but I would love to go to Australia.
Yeah, my brother lived in Australia for a couple of years, and I'm trying to work on convince him to take us back, but I don't know if that'll happen. But we would love. What part of Australia are you guys in?
We're in Sydney.
Okay.
We can make that work.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So make sure when you come to Australia, you look us up. We'll come and pick you up from the airport.
Okay.
Oh, lovely.
Austin and Monica, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on our show today. And if you want to know more about Austin and Monica and what they do and follow their journey around the world and just get inspired by their story and the different areas that they're going, please check out the notes on this podcast and you'll have all their socials and website as well. Austin and Monica, thank you again.
Thank you so much for having us. This was a really good conversation.
Yeah, it's been such a pleasure, you guys. We appreciate it.
Now that we've interviewed our guests, join Charlene and I as we recap today's episode. I love that episode.
What an inspiring couple.
Yeah, and it's the first couple we've had on the show, and I'm glad they're the first couple we've had because they're so unique and so different to anything we've had on the show before. But I love their connection. Like you can see from their questions, the way they answer them, they're absolutely made for each other.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so made for each other. Like the synergy, just the way they complement each other, and that you can see there's that mutual respect and admiration for each other.
I think some of the key lessons I learned from that was one, I think you summed it up with the funnel. So Monica spoke about flipping the niche around and wide at first, knowing what you're actually good at and identifying what you're good at, because what you think could be your niche could probably not be your niche as well.
Broadening the experience so that you know, okay, what don't I like?
Yeah, and then niching down to what you like, I thought was very good. And also the vision retreat, that's not the first time we've heard about that. Obviously, we have mentors and one of our mentors, which is Mary and Richard Amwedo, who we love and adore, they actually teach on the vision trips as well. So
I went straight there.
Straight to Richard and Mary. So a big shout out to Richard and Mary as well for being mentors in our life and speaking into our life as well. And they really, and Monica and Austin spoke about the value and the importance of these mission trips as well. And I know if you reach out to Richard and Mary, you can find them on Facebook. They actually have a guide on one of these vision trips as well, and how to plan your vision trips and how do you do that. So a huge shout out to them as well.
And it doesn't have to be far from where you are. It's just a break for the two of you, right?
Yeah. And They do that yearly, and they've got a guide as well on how to do that. But also, I love the fact that the Pinterest dream building. So sometimes when you know what you want but don't know what you want, what a great tool.
I know, right? So it just really feeds the creativity and allows you to have options.
Yeah. So Monica, from her Pinterest, what a salesperson. From her Pinterest, created her PowerPoint to sell the vision to her husband. And I just love that. Obviously, she didn't quite say it like that, but that was my interpretation of that. So I love that as well. And also that they're using their experience to give back to the communities. And I love that. They're using their experience, they're using their time, they're using their generosity to give back to people in need. And Monica did get quite emotional when she spoke about education and giving children education.
See how deeply that means to her.
Yeah, and I know Nelson Mandela also said, like, education is the greatest gift. Well,
right.
something along those lines that you can give a child.
That's right.
Thank you for listening to our podcast today. We hope you found it informative and inspiring. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and share it with your friends and family. Also, make sure to visit our website at www.rewriteyourlifestory.com.au to learn more about our mission, products and services. And remember, you have the power to rewrite your own life story. So go out there, face your challenges head on and create the life you've always wanted. We'll see you in the next episode.